Hello and welcome to This Week in Bitcoin, brought to you by Relai Private. So much happened this week. Let's get stuck in right away. News number one are again Bitcoin itself, and depending on what happens in the next 24 to 48 hours, Bitcoin might have crossed the 100,000 US dollar threshold, which is an incredible feat. Imagine you get 100,000 US dollars for one Bitcoin, 6 figures, has never happened before. And it's definitely one of these milestones that is incredible. And there are a few reasons for it. Overall, there is a very positive sentiment in the US. And the US, if you go by game theory, which I've made a video about, I'll link it below, is the number one resource for people to look at and go, okay, whatever they're doing, we're doing as well. So that's out of the bag. The US wants a strategic Bitcoin Treasury Reserve bill influenced by Senator Loomis that uses Bitcoin, what they have currently, roughly around 210,000, and use that as a reserve currency. But they're not stopping there because the Trump administration has been very vocal about all of these things. And it appears that that had a large impact on public companies as well. MicroStrategy, again in the center of attention, has announced a 51,780 Bitcoin purchase, back then worth roughly around 4.6 billion US dollars, as his overall plan of Michael Saylor by buying Bitcoin in the next 3 years for at least 21 billion US dollars. Crazy amount. So that drove the price of MicroStrategy, the company itself. The stock just rose and pumped with, it seems like there's no end in sight. And on the other hand, it also had an impact on other public companies. Mara Digital followed the plan. They're going to raise, due to convertible notes and another public debt round, at least 1 billion US dollars. They're going to use 700 million of those to buy more Bitcoin. Other fellow miners are also looking at this option and will announce more stuff like this in the future. And then you also had other strategic business decisions by Semler Scientific, Metaplanet, who's been working very nicely in Japan. They're now one of the top traded companies in the country itself. And Cosmos Health, another health company that is pursuing the strategy of using it as a reserve currency. More and more companies are getting on board. There is also the debate with Microsoft in December with the shareholder meeting, where Michael Saylor is already trying to arrange to talking to their CEO and CTO. And then there's been Rumble, a alternative video platform, who's also had the CEO on Twitter explaining, should we put Bitcoin on the balance sheet? The answer to this was incredible. There again, Saylor has been very vocal and immediately jumped in. So all of these signals indicate to a very strong position of Bitcoin in the US. And this has been influenced by the second news of this week, which is Trump's cabinet, which has been picked at a rapid pace. He's not wasting any time, and he wants to use his first 100 days in office to get all of his legislation across. And you have some very prominent names in those picks. Along of them are Vice President J.D. Vance. He has been very outspoken about Bitcoin and other digital assets. You had Vivek Ramaswamy, who is very vocal towards Bitcoin as well. He has actually been very influential in orange pilling the Trump campaign, apparently. And then you had potential huge influences like Howard Lutnick, the brains behind Cantor Fitzgerald, who personally holds more than 100 million in Bitcoin. He is potentially going to be the next Secretary of Commerce, and very important, the next Treasury Secretary. That could be US Senator Bill Hagerty, who has been extremely bullish on Bitcoin and other digital assets. So it seems like this whirlwind of the negative stance towards Bitcoin, which you had seen from the SEC and other regulatory frameworks in the US, is sort of evaporating, and this new cabinet and these new bills and this new influence could have a huge impact on the US itself. But it's not only on the federal level. You also had states like Wyoming, where Senator Loomis is from and is actually the senator of. You have Pennsylvania now, who are going to vote about the fact to use Bitcoin as a strategic reserve bill. And you already had news out of Texas who want to follow the same pursuit. So more and more single states are ramping up and actually using Bitcoin, meaning it has gained traction, and it's going through a narrative shift from the speculative internet money into a store of value for retail investors, and now potentially even to a store of value and a reserve currency for nation states. So game theory is in full swing here. And speaking of game theory, you also had the news that Wall Street is extremely bullish on Bitcoin. VanEck's head of digital assets, so the guy who is in charge of overseeing their ETFs as well as looking at strategic decisions to use these assets. Matthew Siegel or Sigel, depending on how you pronounce it, has said that they're doubling down on using Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset and is encouraging other asset managers to follow pursuit. BlackRock has already announced the same support as well. They've become very bullish. Fidelity as well. So there's a lot of support from Wall Street, probably due to the success of their ETFs, but they've realized the potential Bitcoin has, and they're very eager of actually using the asset outright as a strategic reserve asset. Could this mean that America's becoming the Bitcoin powerhouse? We'll need to wait and see. After all, promises and executions are two different things. However, things are looking very good. There I may say it's looking very orange, and who knows, if the US is going this aggressively, other nation states and other allies potentially could follow suit. And with that, we're at the end of this week in Bitcoin. You know the drill. If you got questions, feedback, or just want to say hello, leave a comment below, and I look forward to seeing you next week again.